She had to step out and take a phone call.
Denise is here, but she's.
Everybody, for our August meeting, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we're starting a hair late in reference to the parking opportunities this morning.
For lack thereof.
But as you can see, all around the school, front to back, people are getting ready for opening. I see from Stanley steamer trucks to construction trucks to polished floors. So looking good. Thank you. Going in the right direction. Today's meeting will have an executive session, and just to give you a general idea of what we'd like to do today as far as timing and everything else, the executive session will probably be rather lengthy, as you know. We had talked about last session, and once we state our role and go into it, I will go into more details of it, but we should plan on that. And also, a optional tour for you, but I would encourage us to do it. You'll hear from Sue Holdaway in the ASC report. So we may take a little walk upstairs, depending upon your taste for adventure today. And then we'll also have an extended executive session. So with that being said, we'll take a roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first slot is vacant, so we'll just go past that. Timothy Cowan.
Present.
Don Elmore. Absent. Todd Hobler.
Here.
Len Lenahan.
Here.
I am here. Dennis Murphy.
Present.
Susan Swartz.
Here.
Denise Wilson.
Here.
TK Adebayo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum so noted. Thank you very much. Before we roll into the consent agenda, I'd just like to go into a little more detail. First off, this is the first official meeting, and I'd like to say Dr. Foy, as president, has been here more than 1 year.
Oh, congratulations.
Accompanying that is part of our executive session, which I alluded to earlier, is part of being here 1 year. He has earned a review, and we will be discussing that in executive session today. There may be another item or two which the secretary will report out after the session, but that's going into session. Any other particular comments about executive session before we move on? Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask a question about a litigation matter against the college and against the board during executive session.
Yep, we figured that would be. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? That being said, we'll move on. Item number 2 is our consent agenda. You have items 1 through 10. Welcome, Lynn. Do we have a motion? We have a first. Do we have a second? We have a second on the table. Thank you, Trustee Wilson. On the question? Yes, sir.
On item number 7, the memorandum of understanding between the Greater Buffalo United Accountable Healthcare Network and the college. I don't know who would be, Rick, you could just explain a little bit more about what this is. Is this an internship for ECC students? with Dr. Vasquez's organization?
Yes, exactly.
And go ahead,
For
Mr.
Biotech Technology Bureau.
Mhm.
And they just got their accreditation to 2025.
Okay.
So it's helps with lessons.
Is this the only organization in which those dietetic
We
technologies?
have 6 or 8 different programs.
Okay. All right. And they spend like 10 hours a week there, 20 hours a week?
Usually 20.
Thank you.
Trustee Count, thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions? We have a second on the motion, items 1 through 10, the consent agenda. Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Talent management agenda, I'd like for that to be separated from the consent agenda for a discussion and or a separate vote, please.
All right,
I'll make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion. Is there a
Yes, sir.
second on the amendment? There is a second. Any questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? None being said, we're amending to show that we have items 1 through 9 in the consent agenda, with item 10 being moved to talent management. How's that? Any questions? We'll call the vote.
We're going to talk about talent management agenda during the talent management committee discussion forthcoming?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is that good? Acceptable,
Fine.
everybody? Okay. Items 1 through 9, do we have a vote? All those in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? None being said, items 1 through 9 carry unanimously. We'll move into committee briefings. And to lead our briefings is financial health. The essence of our business here, which is keeping ourselves in economic stability and prosperous. Chair Callen, Trustee Callen.
Thank you, Chairman Murphy. The Financial Health Committee met on August 14th here, and as per what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, the meeting was only an hour and 21 minutes long instead of 2 hours or 2.5, as sometimes the case may be. I'm sure many of my colleagues with you in progress, yes. We had a very iterative discussion with the Chief Administrative and Financial Officer, with Sue Holdaway from the Auxiliary Services Corporation, about year-to-date information. One of the specific items that trustees, not only myself but other trustees, have been curious about was enrollment trends for both how did we end the spring semester and how are we looking for the fall. And Penny has very kindly invited Steve Smith to join us to give us some updates on that. I don't know, Penny or Steve, if you want to give the full board a brief update on enrollment trends and what's changed since August 14th.
So, thank you. We've been able to close the gap considerably since that last meeting here. We've had a lot of busy activity here in enrollment. So to give you an admissions update, they've done a really nice job this year bringing in the class. Over the last 2 years, the application count was relatively flat. They did, though, see a 3% increase in freshman applicants and a 6% increase in transfer applications this year. The freshman apps in particular, they were able to decrease the number of incomplete applications by 11%. So that really helped things a considerable amount. We still continue to have a lot of activity with students that are still doing placement testing. We added a number of additional orientation sessions this past week to accommodate the demand that we had to get in. At this point, though, despite those increases in accepts for freshmen and transfer, each of those categories themselves is enrolled in around 100 fewer students at this point in time compared to the previous year. And the same number actually also applies by about 100 for our returning students. And that ultimately results in where we are right now, where we were at 10% off the pace. We're now at 3.9% off the pace. So we've done a nice job closing that up. We obviously still have considerable work to do. Other things that we're doing at this point right now, we are really going to focus our efforts on shoring up things with Northland. There are only a handful of students there that are enrolled in the curriculum at this time in Northland. With, after further discussions yesterday, we've got about 40 plus students that still need to enroll. So we're going to be doing that today and tomorrow, having just gotten all the curriculum built out for those students. Now we can actually get those students enrolled in there. We're also going to be spending a lot of time looking to see if we can plug some holes. We have, for instance, we have nearly 60 students. Despite, I will just say, a 96% registration rate for students that actually attend orientation, we still have about 60 students that have attended orientation and tested that haven't enrolled. So, of course, we're going after those folks today. After that, though, we're going to look for testers who didn't enroll and try to get an understanding as to why that might be. We learned yesterday from some anecdotal conversations with faculty and advisors that a number of students are having some trouble getting courses. And Penny and I had some conversations with folks, and we want to make sure that we're working with academic affairs to see if we can get those sessions opened up and increase availability for high-demand students. So going forward, those are the big efforts that we have coming up here. In terms of just general issues though that we know about, we have continued demographic declines in Western New York. We're looking at a 10% decrease in high school graduates from 2012 from 2015 to 2030. So it's not going to get better, at least in terms of the number of high school graduates that we're going to see here in this region. That's not just Western New York, that's really the Northeast. So Western New York could foreseeably be a little bit worse in that regard. Other things that are working against us right now, of course, is the economy. And community colleges enroll fewer students when the economy is as strong as it is right now. Students tend to return to the workforce. So, right now the opportunities for us, though, do include focusing on our advanced studies students. It's what a lot of community colleges are doing to buoy their enrollments during these times, and we're getting ready to head into that season. Last year we had a tremendous upswing in advanced studies registrations, so we're looking to really continue that this year, and I've been reaching out to them to see what I can do to help so we get some more people out there to forge those relationships.
Thank you, Steve. One quick clarifying question, just to make sure I
Yes.
understood something you just said compared to the data you presented at the August 14th committee meeting. When we met on August 14th, you indicated that as of that date, about 800 fewer students had registered for the fall semester as compared to the fall of 2017 semester.
Right.
And that was about a 9.5% decline.
Right.
If I heard you correctly a few minutes ago, did you say
We're
that
at like 390 something, 396 point in time.
396 students less?
Across every category of student, yes.
Okay. And that translates to a 3.9% decline in enrollment compared to fall of 17?
That's correct. And if you were to look at the major stratifications there, students, whether you're looking at freshmen, transfer, returning,
Right.
each one of them is in the neighborhood of around 120 plus 125 students in that neighborhood.
Question for Penny before you open up to any of my trustees who want to ask about enrollment. If that trend bears out from a financial standpoint, what remedial steps, if any, would we take in the fall semester once we get into late September and
Right.
Everyone's registered to address
So,
revenue?
when I built the budget is not built on the 11,100 and some, that's our flat enrollment, or our flat target from last year to this year. It's built a little under that, it's built at about 10,750 FTE. So we've got a little bit of buffer right there with the budget. If we don't get to that 10,750, which I think is probably not gonna happen, I think we'll hit it, then, as I said, the reforecasting that I've added into our budgeting process kicks in. We've been watching that, and so I'll do a reforecast next week at the end of ad drop, dependent on where we are, so that we'll know, what revenue we actually are anticipating bringing in, and see if that still fits within the budget that we have built in and accepted. If it has not, then we'll modify the budget as we need to ensure that we stay within our operating dollars.
So does that mean more aggressive use of vacancy control, or what budget strategies would you employ?
That's a discussion we would have with the executive team and board, depending on what the severity of it is.
I might add, we're very optimistic about fall enrollment. So we have 2 open colleges that just happened, and from the people that showed up to with those, the numbers, it's looking quite good. And then after ad drop, well, we're supposed to get another 600 high school students as well. As Steve mentioned, we are ramping up our advanced studies, and so we, it's still unclear what the final numbers will be, but I think we'll hit our targets.
Last year, I believe our advanced studies, we were up around 900 last year, which was a marked improvement. But that opportunity is still there for us.
Thank you. Yes.
So my question for you, Steve, is, as I know that you gave us those statistics for the graduation rates or what have you. However, there are community colleges within our region that are doing not so bad. I believe Monroe is able to retain about 80% of their high school graduates. So there is a formula out here that is working. I guess what is our strategy?
Right. Well, Monroe Community College is often referred to as a really good model of service for undergrad students. They do a really nice job of onboarding. They do a fantastic job of providing additional services for students that are continuing to enroll there. And right now, I look at our operation, and we've made some great strides in some of the changes that we're looking at take some technology and some programming to install. So on the new student enrollment front, on the new student enrollment front, we are still working on consolidating our pre-enrollment activities within the CRM. All right, and that doesn't necessarily sound like a lot to a lot of people, but I'll tell you that it really brings student progression at the student level into a very observable and trackable way, right? So that we can now start case managing people differently, case managing in general, to get people across the finish line. So there's that big initiative there. And of course, though, too, we know that we have service issues here on this campus. Right now, as I just met with the enrollment management team last week, I informed them that as part of their action plans, I'm requiring that every enrollment management unit add to their assessment plan, to their action plans, a section on customer service. And that customer service be looked at in two different ways. First of all, that it has to be interpersonal relationships. What are we doing to help people in a face-to-face interaction? But also, what are we doing from a technology perspective to answer students' questions before they feel that they need to get in line? All right. I don't like seeing students in line when I know that many of the things that they are here to understand, to capture, to documents, those sorts of things are available electronically.
Okay, thank you. I guess what would be helpful is just a clear plan, and I know you have it, and I know your team is working at it, but if there is something that can be prepared for the board to see for recruitment, a clear recruitment plan that we can use and follow and kind of guide us.
We have it, and I am looking for an opportunity, just as part of my growth here and in my tenure here. So I do have what's probably a second draft ready, and I'd like to sit down with the cabinet, sit down with the president to just review it and make sure that everybody's rowing in the same direction with that.
Okay, thank you.
I would suggest to the president that maybe we can include it in one of our monthly learning meetings in the near future.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny, if you would, on a financial standpoint, do any of the trustees have questions on enrollment side for the financial health committee report? Okay. On the pure financial side, I tried to pin Penny down at the August meeting on her projection on the positive variance for ending the 17-18 fiscal year. Her being as cagey as she is, but with that Virginia Southern charm, she used my favorite phrase, "Bless your sweetheart," and it just sort of trailed off. And so I'm going to try and pin you down again because the dashboard at the end of July showed a negative variance on the revenue side of just under $800,000, but a positive variance on the expense side less spending than budgeted by 5.9, and there were timing issues and accruals that still needed to be posted.
Correct.
What is your best projection for how we're going to end 17-18 at the end of this week?
Are you looking for just the operating, or are you looking for the operating and what we'll use of the fund balance for ERP?
Both.
Okay, so we will stay within our operating dollars. Based on what we're seeing, we believe that we will also, we will stay within the ERP. We actually will have about $300,000 that is activities for the ERP that were not incurred in this year, but that we need to carry forward into next year. But we will be within our operating budget, expense to operating revenue, and we will be within our ERP projection. And we will not use that $1.25 million that was budgeted for operating out of fund balance.
Okay. So what's the surplus projection
Dollars?
for the operating budget?
I know that that's where I'm
In
looking
the
at
$2
it.
to $3 million range?
No.
1 to 3?
Maybe, well, I mean, with the way that we're doing it, we're still looking at what the ERP spend versus what operating spend. So, and right now our estimate is at $300,000 under the ERP spend that we need to carry forward, and operating maybe $500,000 to $750,000 will be surplus. So that's very, very.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to hold you to that at this point, but
Okay.
that's markedly less than what we thought a few months ago. A few months ago, we were talking about millions of dollars of potential positive variance. Is there
Right.
something that's changed that forecast, like a particular area, something that hadn't been accrued, that wasn't seen?
Yes, yes, so we have tracked the Pathways project and the Police Academy projects. Those programs, we have tracked them under grants so that don't get shifted into our operating dollars until the end of the year. We're changing that in Workday, we'll be capturing that within the operating dollars so that it's transparent and visible for everyone to see as the year goes along.
Trustee Lennon?
Just to clarify, so if I heard this right, so we're not going to need the 1.25 out of the fund balance for ERP.
Correct, that's what we promised
Plus we'll
you.
have a couple $100,000. I mean, not resolved yet. We've got it's a surplus, not a deficit.
We will not have a deficit, no, sir.
So there's two things that I'd like to bring forward. Number one, and I know projecting before the end results it produces sometimes makes everybody nervous. But the news is, and a continuing trend, we have surplus forecasted. Can that be confirmed?
Tentative.
Thank you.
I cannot confirm it, I'm sorry.
That is, in our history, good news. Now, the question is, and I think as we learn the specifics, one things are issued. And I go back to the same enrollment question, because as we all know, misinterpretation or lack of information do not help people make good decisions. And when we're taking a number about enrollment 3 and 4 weeks away from the actual of the previous year over year, I don't think it's a fair benchmark. I think we need to look at apples and apples, as they call it in the financial world, and say, at this period in time, this is where we were, and at this period in time, this is where we are. So I think we need to be very cautious of how we start to issue numbers. So for people that are not directly engaged on a regular basis in our business, it can be really misinterpreted out of the gate. And I just want to bring that to the table. This is a classic example of that. I think it's important to know that we have a surplus or not, thank you, Trustee Yellen, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction compared to history. That's all I have to add to that, being an old financial person.
One final thing from the committee before we go through the items for board approval. I'd ask them for an update on the Canisius College housing issue.
You are looking for numbers?
Yeah, the budget was for 65 students to be housed there. At the August 14th meeting, you had 43 students registered to live in the dorm there. Where are we on that?
So we have, I believe, 33, 34 students right now. We expect to be, this Saturday at our final move-in, we expect to be at 54. To date, we have had 0 calls from Canisius. We've been staying in touch with them pretty well and trying to understand be aware of any issues that do pop up. So fortunately, everything's gone pretty smoothly in that department there. At this point, the remaining students that need to move in are going to be generally non-athletes. Most of the makeup of the first group moving in was football players. Now we're moving into a more diverse, at least academically and student activity-wise group of students. So that's where we're at, and everything's been going pretty well.
Thank you, Steve. What happens to us if we don't have 65 students in that dorm?
Then we don't spend
It's just
65
it's just
students. It's just
less revenue to the college.
It's less revenue to the college, less
Is it
expense.
less expense also?
Yes.
Because we don't pay Canisius for
No.
that?
Yeah, we pay per bed that's
Okay.
occupied at the end of drop ad. So we're not on the hook for anything at this point right now. It'll be $12,500
For however many
for
students
however
we
many
have at
students.
the
Right?
end of
Well, we pay Canisius $12,000.
Okay.
We have our
in
administrative
total
costs.
for the year.
Yeah.
And final question for me on the Canisius College issue. A position, I believe it was part-time, was supposed to be created to manage this, an ECC employee.
We are looking right now, my office, so that we're aware of any issues that pop up. My office has been handling it the entire semester. So Christy Vijuet, my assistant, has been an absolute rock star in that department. And at this point going forward, we need to look at that. We don't necessarily, as you suggest, we don't need a full-time person to do this at this point. Some sort of a part-time position or an intern would be able to accommodate that. I still want to keep it very close to my office, or at least to somebody in the senior team here, so that we are always kept in the loop.
And Tim, that position is not to manage the students in housing.
That's
It
correct.
is to serve as a liaison between Canisius's management of the housing and our offices, so that we both stay informed of everything that we need to know about our students in that environment.
But just to make sure, that position has not been filled.
No, it has
It
not.
was
No.
authorized to be created, but it's
No.
not been filled and
Right.
at this point.
No, I think that we've handled it the right way so far, so that we have a real solid understanding of what the issues are. I mean, we're trying to learn housing in this process here. So for me and for Christy and for other folks here at campus to be very directly involved in it, I think it's a very good thing, so that we can plan for it going forward.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there a projected turnaround time to find this liaison within a month?
No, there's not. We're not going to be enrolling students again for another year. So we'll have to sit back and evaluate and figure out where we're at. We have to understand what our problems are, what are the things that we need to do better before we start writing job descriptions.
Any other?
I had a question about the facilities rental from the board minutes, or your finance committee meeting minutes. It said fee waivers are not always requested nor always qualified when requesting results in the totals of the report. So my question is, are we giving fee waivers to anybody who hasn't requested one? Because-
No.
Okay, just wanted to
No.
confirm, because that is our policy.
Yes, no, we are not. And sometimes they are requested and they're denied.
Any other questions? We have a motion?
So without further ado, we have the first resolution for approval is the surplus resolution. This is common every month. There are various equipment, most of it's technology related, that is out of date, and the procedure is it goes to Erie County Purchase Division for auction and sale. So I'll make the motion for that to be approved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much. The second resolution for board approval is the annual permit with People Inc., which rents a classroom from the college. They've done this, Rick, for a lot of years, right? And we just briefly went over this at South Campus at the committee meeting, and we were all satisfied. So, does anyone have any questions on the People Inc. contract?
You made the motion?
I make the motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
by Kate.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That being said.
And then the last resolution out of financial health is a contract with Ad Astra. I had to have Steve and Penny explain this to me at the committee. I don't know if either one of you quickly wants to explain it again in
Yeah,
relationship with
super quick.
Steve Frowney.
Sure. Ad Astra, there's basically a performance improvement fund grant through SUNY, where a small consortium of colleges are partnering with Fredonia, who previously installed this predictive modeling software for classroom or not class report, section need at class level. So what this does, and from a product perspective, the benefit to us as an institution is it gives us much better forecasting ability of what our classroom needs are going to be. I keep saying classroom. Our section needs are going to be throughout the year. It's always looking at point-in-time comparisons to see where students are in their programs, to understand how many sections we currently have available. It makes recommendations in advance to either add or delete sections to just operate more efficiently. From a cost perspective, the total cost of the software over 3 years is $150,000. The first 2 years of this are funded through the PIP grant. So we're not accountable for anything at this point from a financial sense. The final year of the contract, year 3, that's when they start turning it over to the institutions. And that year, we are responsible for $30,000. So that's 3 years from now.
And what this does is it gives us another retention tool to give us the data to be able to help build schedules so students can graduate on time.
Right.
Are there any questions for Steve? I'll make the motion to approve the Ad-Astra contract.
Second.
Seconded by Todd.
Mr. Mulder? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None being said?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report, sir. Policy and governance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Policy and Governance Committee met on August 17th, and we have a policy to recognize transfer and prior learning credits for the board's approval. This policy is intended to create a consistent approach for students to apply for transfer and or prior learning credits. Specific criteria apply to each prior learning experience. We're talking about AP courses, military experience, credits earned in high school, that kind of thing. We've included a sample of the portfolio that's required for the LEAP program, for instance, the Life Experience Assessment Program, and I welcome any questions that you have.
Do we have a motion?
So I move that we approve the board policy for recognition of transfer and prior learning credits.
Do we have a second? Second, trustee Lenihan. Comments and questions on the motion? None being said, all those in favor? There we go, we're rolling now. All right, Andrew, report.
Yes, we have a couple of items for the board's information to be received by the board. First, our committee minutes from the July meeting. We have an interim suspension policy that is a management policy. This defines the specific conditions under which an interim suspension may be imposed. This was as directed by SUNY's General Counsel Office. We need to put this policy in place. And it just spells out the conditions of what an interim suspension means. It means denying access to all college campuses, activities, and the students on this kind of interim suspension cannot exercise privileges that they might otherwise be eligible for. And it does not replace the regular adjudication process, which includes a formal investigation up to and including a hearing, if required.
Okay.
And then the second item for the board's information is the reasonable request policy. This is, the purpose is to inform students of their obligation to comply with requests from a college safety or security officer and or any of SUNY Erie's staff. I want to say on behalf of the policy committee that we had some discussion that it's very important that this policy be consistently implemented and fairly without bias. Policy committee has been assured that training for staff will ensure that it is equitably implemented, and I just wanted to reiterate that for the record. Does anybody have questions on the reasonable request policy? Tim?
I had a quick question on both. Under new or edited policy, Kate, it says both are new. On the interim suspension policy, it appears from the statement of purpose, this is being done at the behest or request of SUNY Central.
Yes.
So my general question on both is, were they precipitated by any event or issue or situation with a specific student or person on campus, or are they
At
both
this
being
campus,
done
I don't believe
just
so.
to
It's
address
just a
gaps?
system-wide, right.
So the question that I have related is obviously for clarity for students and any other persons from administration and or faculty. As these particular policies roll in, and they obviously impact and are related to code of conduct and other accreditation issues within departments. So to make sure that we don't have conflicts from one over to the other. So if we could have somebody, President Hookley, just take a quick look through all those items to make sure that we're consistent and treating everybody fairly and consistently throughout the process.
And to your point, Trustee Glenn, there has been some feedback that it wasn't consistent, so it may not have been reported to SUNY. It's not a fixing situation. There was concern that it was not a consistent process, so this definitely will help in the future.
And both of these policies are to be included in the student code of conduct and on our website, so that people are aware as best we can make them aware.
Thank you.
Shall I move these?
No.
Well, it's just to report acceptance. Okay.
Any other questions or comments for the committee? That being said, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We'll move right to advancing. We'll just keep going.
I wanted to make sure that I was going in the right direction.
This is nice to hear the word as a standing committee report.
Yes.
For advancement. This is
Well,
progress.
The real progress will be when the advancement committee meets, which we are hoping will be September 14th, I believe. We will make sure that Gail gets that date to you, but that's what we are looking at, I believe 9 a.m. on Friday, September 14th. But we do have an item that is pertinent and is included in your board packet, and it is related to the current operating agreement between the SUNY Erie Foundation, actually it's the ECC Foundation, and the college. It's set to expire tomorrow, and we've been working on a draft form, but it's not going to be complete by tomorrow. So the approach here is to take an interim one. We're looking to extend the agreement on a month-to-month basis until the new agreement is presented for our approval, which we expect to be within 6 months. So we have a resolution for adoption of this operating agreement, and I ask that we move that resolution regarding the month-to-month extension.
Same terms.
Same terms right now.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second. On the discussion, now that we have the second on the table, Trustee Holden. Yes.
If we're not meeting to extend it in this month to month, how is it extended?
Pardon me?
If we're not meeting as a board, we have educational meetings, we're meeting.
So they're required, I guess, if I get the question correctly, are we required to re-up it each month?
That's right.
That's not the intent.
Is that the intent of what the document?
No, it's, Trustee Manciello will offer an amendment as well, coming up shortly, but the idea is that we would have up to 6 months without having to come back every month to get the deal.
So that technicality, I think, was addressed.
It will be.
Yes, so I believe that we have, unless there's any other questions currently, a motion to amend.
You have a question,
forward.
too?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I looked at the old agreement, and separate from whatever's going on, Kate, in your committee about updating the agreement and discussions between the foundation and the college, just looking at it based on events, but also based on the OSC audit, having served with Dennis and Denise on that panel, this thing has to be, as I'm sure you're already thinking about, has to be substantially changed, just to reflect what we as a board agreed to do through the Blue Ribbon Committee, and then the board approved in regard to that state audit. So I don't know to what extent any of your discussions are including any of the Blue Ribbon Commission.
They certainly will.
We'll review it again, just to refresh everybody's memory on that item. We had extensive discussion with the foundation prior to reflect a couple of changes that were crucial to update. We also, to your point, Tim, had decided at that point in time things that went directly impacted, that once the agreement started to sunset, that we would review it again to make sure that we're, like we are with all our requirements, our 22 requirements, to make sure that we're in compliance.
So we're voting on a 6-month extension of the
So-
Current contract.
Okay.
Up to 6 months.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to offer an amendment here because legal counsel at the county has referred us to Cognoke and Cook and our counsel there, has finally had a chance to review the resolution, and it was submitted already to the board packet, so just relatively minor edits. So my first, my amendment is to insert the word SUNY Erie Community before the word college, insert the words Erie Community College before the word foundation, and Inc. after. And I also move to strike the words that until such time as a new agreement is presented to and approved by the trustees in the final sentence of the resolve clause, and inserting for up to 6 months. So we give ourselves some time to deal with this properly and in conjunction with the recommendations of the CAB.
I'll second the amendment.
So could you just read it? Just so
So we're inserting the word SUNY Erie Community before the word college, inserting the words Erie Community College before the word foundation, and Inc. after. We're striking the words until such time as a new agreement is presented to and approved by the trustees in the final sentence of the resolve clause, and inserting for up to 6 months, so that we, again, provide ourselves a deadline for accomplishing this.
So and we have a second from Trustee Lonnie?
I second.
Discussion or comments on the amendment? Okay, we'll take a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? None being shown. Can we just read for the record, make sure that we have it correct into the record for the amendment, so we can take the final vote?
Are you reading it?
Changes.
I believe you have an updated copy, is that correct?
A motion to amend by inserting the word SUNY Erie Community College before the word college, and inserting the words Erie Community College before the word foundation, and Inc. after. And then also move to amend by striking the words until such a time as a new agreement is presented to and approved by the trustees in the final sentence of the resolve clause, and inserting for up to 6 months.
Any questions or comments on the amended motion? None being said, all those in favor? Any opposed? None being said, the motion unanimously carried. I apologize for being so tedious, but it was an amendment on the floor, so we have to be very specific. Thank you for your patience. Yes,
Another
sir.
quick question, Chairman. I don't know if it's appropriate for the Advancement Committee or if it comes under the Affiliated Entities report later on in our agenda to get an update on how the golf and tennis tournament went, and then if we're doing an ECC gala this year, or it's going to be delayed till next year.
First of all, you bring up a good point. With the Advancement Committee now and the independent entities, I think it goes back to the OC discussion. We should decide where that should be formatted. Right now, it's set up separately outside of the committee, but we will have it today. We have an update. Is that correct, Michael? Not right now.
No, I
Yes
guess
or no?
waiting.
Yeah. No. Okay, we will have one for you.
But we should decide
Yes.
where in the agenda those reports.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we'll, it's an excellent point. So I guess one of the first tasks of Advancement is deciding what's most appropriate and looking as it relates to the OC review process, et cetera. Because we agreed that we would
Discuss that at
have.
our next meeting.
Yes, thank you. For the September meeting, is that acceptable to everybody? Yes? Okay, all right. Very good. We'll move right along to strategic planning and assessment. Strategic planning is really focused on two items: preparation of the self-assessment of the trustees to be reviewed in October, and number two, and most topical at the moment, is the first annual review of the president. That was conducted, and I thank you all for your participation. And I know it takes time to fill these out, and ACCT appreciates that you got them in a timely way. So we had a very good response rate for the presidents and almost great response rate for the trustees. So that being said, those are here, and in executive sessions today, we will discuss the president's review as submitted by both the president and by the trustees. So that's our report today. There's, I believe, some minutes that you have in your packet for your information. Make sure that we're updated, included, and reflected in the minutes. And that's the end of the report, unless there's any other questions. That being said, we'll go on to items student success and diversity.
And I will defer to our leader, as usual.
Okay, the first item is just advisory boards. There are 3, 2 for nursing and 1 for early childhood. The second item is related to parking, so I'll ask either Steve or Nora to talk about the parking agreement.
This is just additional parking for students at our city campus. We don't have enough parking in our current spaces, so it allows 240 additional parking spaces. And it was an RFP done, and this was the company that wanted it.
Where will it be held? Where's the 240?
It's on the corner of Oak and I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Street, but it's right here.
Okay, so it's within walking
Yes.
distance. Okay.
They're not it's fun.
Is it the parking lot where the potential supermarket was going to go? Next to the NFTA?
No, Mike says no.
That's planned for Ellicott. I was talking about Swan and Washington.
Swan and Washington.
It's one of the ramps.
Yes.
I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's the same place with the parking.
No.
It's addition.
Yes,
It's not the.
that's correct.
So I'm just trying to, in my mind, Swan and Washington, figure out what's next to this parking lot that we might know.
The
I'll have to
ballpark.
get back to you on that because I haven't wanted to see it.
Ballpark.
Where it was explained to
Yeah,
committees
it's in
over by.
Yeah,
Is it the one that's
Right by Washington
Yeah.
Park. Right,
That's how I know.
I know.
Is it a ramp or a surface lot?
It's a ramp.
It's a ramp.
It's a ramp.
Yeah, it's
So it's the ramp that's owned by the owners of the former, or one HSBC tower?
Yes, that's exactly where it is.
Okay.
It's operated by Buffalo.
So
You see it
I mean,
here,
yes,
three
it's
in
at
front
the
of
bottom.
me, picture for you, we have it. Page.
Nora, how many respondents were there to the RFP?
Buffalo Civic Auto Ramps Inc.
I believe two.
And what was the other firm, do you remember?
No, but I can find out.
And this is new, we didn't have an existing contract for 240 spaces
No.
somewhere else. This is all out of,
Because of the need.
So historically, so that we can, I guess I'm turning into the historian here, but appreciate it. We have had floating agreements over the years with various different vendors and providers to handle space accommodations, from pure private landlord-style relationships to more Buffalo Civic Auto Ramp relationships. This is not something new for us, but it does change. So therefore, in a way, it is new.
and is there a need for these 240 spaces downtown because we suddenly have 240 more students
Yes. our-
downtown that weren't here before?
Yeah, we've actually had instances where students have fought over parking spaces to get into the parking spaces over at 45 because it's over 10. So we're trying to increase it to stop that from happening.
And then last question, $60 per month. That's not the highest in downtown, but sort of on it's on a higher end. How does that compare to, don't we rent space from parking lot from Elegant Development over on, people here might recall, it's that lot that has the gates behind Flickinger. Do we not rent there anymore? I know we at one point.
I think that was through the RFP that company did not win the RFP.
Oh, so that was another respondent?
It's actually not Ellicott Development, I think it's different.
It's different, and this one is more protected in terms of the fact that it's a ramp and it has 24 hour, not 24 hour, but it has somebody there service wise. So it's actually more better for us.
Thank you.
The next one is the pre-collegiate studies. We're signing agreements, we're asking you to approve the agreements for Catholic Charities, Waga Ariel, Journey's End, Kenton, Orleans and Anchor, and we also signed off on the Buffalo Public Schools. And to put all that together, and we'll ask Andy to talk about this for, we've done well in non-credit. And I think we are expected to be either flat or increase for this upcoming year. You want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I did, John, oops, sorry. I know John Sliss has been creating a lot of the partnerships, and we have been really pushing to grow our non-credit education, looking at partnerships with the surrounding areas, with some of the businesses and all. So we have plans in place to make that happen. We're starting to see some of that move. I would anticipate over the next year we'll have some decent growth in that. And then as we get better at the planning part, it should grow over the next few years.
I have a question. The growth in the non-credit, is that based on like companies looking to train their employees better or remedial classes?
Not just companies, students. So
Okay.
it's college readiness, pre-collegiate studies is one program, it's 10 weeks. And then we have a RISE program, like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're trying to get students ready for college, okay? We had some problems with students who were not ready and then failed off the system. Okay, so now we're taking a closer look, case managing more than we have in the past. And as Penny said, the budgets for pre-collegiate studies and non-credit will come under the college budget. So will the police academy. I'm just making a diversion. We had 68 in our police academy, which was one of our larger academies, and that's been very positive.
Are we seeing an increase with the number of students attending pre-collegiate turnover to becoming students
Yes.
here?
We have seen an increase, significant increase of students that take these pre-collegiate college readiness and then get into college. Because in the past, we used to just admit them right into the college. They wouldn't do well. Okay. So now with pre-collegiate studies, practice programs, we're preparing them better.
And I'll say for the record that if I was not a pathway student, I would have never been a community college student.
Okay.
Huh.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And there's 2 more parking-related items, numbers 4 and 5. So if Nora can talk to those.
The one that I submitted was for NFTA has renewal, so that they go through the process. We just do that every year, and that gives unlimited use of the metro for our students. They can go between the different campuses, and then yeah, so that's just renewal.
And they can use the passes anywhere?
Anywhere.
The reason I'm asking is the county legislature has been investigating with the NFTA and had at least one hearing. The NFTA provides bus passes under contract with Buffalo Public Schools, and they deliberately limit the passes so students can only use them on certain bus routes at certain times. And it's become a problem because if like a student wants to go to a extracurricular sport activity at like 7 o'clock at night, a football game on a Friday night, the NFTA doesn't accept the pass, so the student can't go. So some county legislators have been very upset about that and have been exploring that with the NFTA. The NFTA is working with BPS on a new contract right now to address that. This pass allows ECC students, they can use it anywhere at any time.
So, as a note, I'd be asking unless there's an objection to privacy, I would be happy to share it with the Buffalo Public Schools so that they may be able to improve the program.
Yeah, the Niagara Scenic contract is for renewal of transportation to satisfy our student athlete transportation needs to away competitions. Been doing a lot to try to control costs there by scheduling our men's and women's teams where we have two basketball or soccer or something like that where they're traveling together. It's more economical, obviously, for us to schedule out that way. And looking at a 2-year deal here that does save the college $4,000 over the season.
Yes.
A question real quick. How many firms bid on the RFP, Steve?
That, I don't know the answer to that one. I want to say that it's just a handful, or just a couple, I should say. I can get that for you.
Please.
Yeah, certainly.
And then was Niagara Scenic Tours the previous vendor providing the service, or are they completely new? Okay.
Yes.
And they've agreed to drop their price.
Oh yeah. No, they've done them all last week. At least I've got those complaints from the department.
Thank you.
Any particular items? Yep.
And the last item is a $133,000 grant to workforce development. They've had this grant from the Department of Labor for probably 8 to 10 years. This is the hazmat training, and it was $133,000 this year.
Have the amounts fluctuated so much just because of usage?
$20,000 each year, one way or another.
Well, I mean,
It's all based on
2009, 219,000, and this year 133,000. So that's a pretty big.
What is the appetite of the board? Would you mind taking items 1 through 6 as a consent item, or would you like to take them individually?
Consent.
Do it as well.
Consent? Okay. Do we have a motion, Madam Chair, for items 1 through 6? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And we have a second? Thank you. Questions or comments on the motions, item 1 through 6? None being said, all those in favor? Any opposed? None being said, unanimously carries. I think that just as a general comment, that this was the month of transportation, so we're talking about parking spaces, bus rides, motor coaches, all the above. So I think that will be good for a while, but I do want to mention that the bus pass system, talking about making sure everyone has access to things, is very important. They may not be our personal drivers, but there is a system and there's a way to get around. And also, this also includes, by the way, as a benefit, the paratransit approach. So by prearranged application for paratransit, and that's a nice improvement for people that have any form of disabilities. President Quay, any comments on that?
Said it well.
Thank you.
I just want to add before we move on that we had a lot of discussion on how this committee should look like and what topics we should discuss within this committee. I'll leave part of that to Trustee Hobler, as he will talk about that during his report. But one thing we decided to do was have a clear focus on diversity. And some time ago, a few weeks ago, an equity and diversity study was circulated, which is in the hands of the Equity and Diversity Council that's in the within the council. They will now be officially reporting out within this committee on the progress and plans of that that will stem from that report. I'm working with Tracy to schedule time and meeting to discuss, and also I believe Fabio will be involved in that as well, just to make sure that the information that came out from that report is not lost, and that we have a clear plan on addressing the issues that were attached within that report, and that's also attached within that council. There at this present time, there is no board representation on the council, which is fine, but we wanted to make sure on the board level that the council was heard, and so it will be done through this committee.
Super. I think that, thank you, Trustee Wilson, for bringing that forward. So the committee will review it and have discussion and then bring it forward to the board. Is that what the vision is? Super. Excellent. Great news. Thank you. Any other items for the board's information that we have? Items 1 through 6.
All good.
All good. Okay. I like the other word, all good. Thank you. We'll move along to report of the chair. We have some general updates and general discussions. I think that we were going to have a talent. Did I miss something here, guys? Talent for talent man. I know we moved an item separately.
Yes.
Yeah.
For talent management.
We're going to
I
discuss
wanna
it under
make
ad
sure
hoc committee reports.
We didn't overlook that. 1 second. Just make a note here. We have it.
Yes.
Would we care to have a updated, we'll do it under the chair's report, under ad hoc, does that work for everybody? Okay, very fine, thank you. So, back to the report of the chair, we have included in the general updates, for the sake of trying to set everyone's calendars and agendas for next year, to get something going, that we did 2 things. Number 1, sent out a doodle poll for the October retreats, see what dates will be available to you. And number 1, so that's coming back. I believe, yeah, we have almost everybody responded?
Yes, almost everybody.
Okay, so,
Yes,
so we'll use the word almost.
Yes, shame that that trustee or trustee that haven't responded.
So that almost trustee,
I don't foresee it unless you went in my clutter, I'll look for it.
so if you would, please, make sure
I'll
that we
send
can have that set up for you all. And then, of course, as part of our requirements, we're required to issue a schedule. And this is most importantly to set the September annual meeting. Thereafter, as the trustees so see fit, things can be adjusted accordingly, purview of the chair. But we're required to have a schedule, and most importantly, an annual meeting in September. So that will be, and that's been set for September 27th, Thursday the 27th. And thereafter, as the officers take seat, can review the balance of the year's schedules. But I thought it was important just to get something out there so that we're in compliance, and that we look at that. I know there's a lot of different comments. We did take a doodle poll, and it's reflecting the doodle poll that was there. Ad hoc committee reports. Let's take, if we don't mind, talent management at the top, because we keep pushing that out. So we had moved which was item number 10, the talent management agenda of August 30th, which is on page 91, if you're referencing. That was moved by this board to act on it solely. So my question is, do we have a motion to accept the talent management as proposed? We have one motion. Thank you, sir. We have a second on the tables. This is time for discussion. For anyone that had, I think, Tim, you were asked to move it out, so if there's any particular items you'd like to bring forward.
Thank you, Chairman. So on August 14th was a busy day. I kept Susan and Penny, among others, busy that day. There were two committee talent management call in the morning and then financial health meeting in the afternoon. So as is my want on the talent management call, I asked a lot of questions about a number of things. I'd like to thank Rick, Tracy, Jean, Penny, and Dan, who also participated, for being patient with my questions and allowing me to pose them. So some of what I was seeing on the report that I asked a lot of questions about was the creation of 2 new senior executive staff positions, a new SES hire, and my question about that issue isn't the name of the individual. I don't know the individual, but more the process under which the former position held by Lydell Fortune, Chief Diversity and Employee Relations Officer, that used to be 2 positions until last summer. Then it was merged into 1, and now it's being proposed to be split again into 2 SES positions, which has a new budgetary impact of an increase in spending of about $150,000 between the hiring of a new employee relations manager and then the reestablishment of a chief diversity officer, the pay and fringe factor for that position when you compare it to what Mr. Fortune, that position was making. So I had a lot of questions about that. I then had questions about the agenda shows the reclassification of 2 existing deans into new dean titles. And what I had posed to the committee was, well, then what happens to the dean titles they're vacating? And as it turns out, we're essentially being asked, even though it doesn't say that in the agenda formally, to create 2 new dean titles. So Mr. Barnes and Mr. Holberg are moving to new dean titles, but their positions need to get filled around them. So in effect, we are, even though it doesn't show that in section 4, request the board create, we are effectively creating 2 new dean positions. And I just wanted that on the record, that is happening. Not due to any of the names of individuals here, but just due to the fiscal impact and some of my other concerns. I'll be voting no on this agenda today. Again, it has nothing to do with the individuals. It's a structural and a larger issue that I have. I'm concerned, Chairman Murphy, and to my colleagues on the board, that a number of the measures and steps that we pledged to take in the Blue Ribbon Commission and as a board after the state audit, that we are retrenching and going backwards on. I've had some private dialogue with trustees over the last 8 months about this, expressed some of my feelings about this on phone calls since last December, including with the agenda and the reworking of the talent management agenda. I think that a lot of transparency that occurred after the OSC audit is not occurring anymore in reporting, and I'm troubled by it, and I cannot support this agenda in its form today, and I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd like an explanation or an answer to the questions that Tim posed about both these issues that he raised from the folks that he asked the question of, so that we have a fuller explanation of the items on the talent page.
I'm going to move to the president so he can kind of guide us through this, please.
With regards to the CDO position, as Trustee Cal just mentioned, we had a unique year in which we had an individual, Lindell Fortune, who is no longer with us, have the capacity to serve 2 SES roles at the same time for a bump in salary. He has since left to be with his parents in Virginia, and he was a bit of a unicorn, meaning that it's hard to find someone with the exact skill set that he had. He had a JD and an MBA with a thesis in diversity in higher education. So looking at the job market currently, to get someone to fulfill the CDO role that he was serving in, which is also a SUNY requirement of us, it does take somewhere around $80,000 or $90,000, especially given our commitment to diversity, diverse students, and our strategic plan moving forward. So that's probably the largest area in terms of increase in spending for the SES. With regards to 2 deans, we, as you know, we've been trying to align personnel for efficiencies and for them to have the best impact on the college. And so these 2 deans have been reassigned to best use their skill sets and then also address the needs of the college. I don't know if were there other issues. The other SES position, a permanent board secretary, was a request coming from the board. The chairman and myself have had several discussions. It was based on, I think, a feeling of the board that sometimes information requested by a board would take, a little too long to get to them, and that a dedicated secretary to the board was necessary to make sure there was consistency across committees in terms of minute taking and how information was being sent back to the board. So that we were complying with honoring the request of the board for that SES position. Is there another position, Tim?
No, it was the new position, Office Assistant, the President's Office, and Chief Diversity Officer. Then there was a promotion of an SES title also.
Promotion of an SES title.
Kelly.
Oh, yeah, the same person. Okay, yeah.
And then the hiring of a new SES title to serve as the Employee Relations Manager.
Again, that was not requested by the college, it was a request of the board, and it makes sense to us, and we're just honoring that request.
Thank you.
Does that respond to your question? Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
On the issue, I have no problem with the appointment for the enrollment vice president. I do feel in that we're questioning enrollment right now. We're in a season where we needed to drill, as you said, you're going to give us a plan to drill down on and what the plan is for the future. I wouldn't be opposed to setting just this one appointment aside for the next month, just so together we can drill down before we make it permanent. I just think, you know, we are down some numbers, you know, it's better than I thought.
Which position, Lynn, are you talking about?
Steve, the enrollment
Management.
management position. What I'm saying is I think it's an opportune time, and that we discussed it already today about coming up with a plan to drill down on exactly what our enrollment position is going to be. That I wouldn't be against putting this one off until the next meeting, so together we can look at that plan and be confident that we're moving ahead in the way we want to move ahead. So I would move to separate that if we could.
So you'd like to make a motion to amend the talent management?
Right. And again, with no questioning of the talent being proposed, but just I think the time is apropos to really drill down and get our enrollment plan under control.
So for clarity, without being too specific here, can you just list which section one and what the position is that you're referring to?
It's the section 2, changing jobs. There's only one position there on the agenda.
Page 91.
It's the VP of Enrollment Management. It's simply making
enrollment management position
Steve permanent from being interim. There's no pay change or anything, it's just making it a permanent appointment.
So this is a temporary position that we have currently waiting to become permanent. Is that what?
And I'm just saying, before we make it permanent, let's continue drilling down on what the plan is so we can feel confident going forward.
I'm still not sure I understand the reason for a delay, given that there's no fiscal savings whatsoever to.
I know, it's making the position permanent, making the permanent commitment. I guess my feeling is, you know, our enrollment has been touched a little bit, not as much as we thought, and I'm very happy about that. But before we go ahead and make this, you know, permanent commitment to that position, which again, I'm satisfied with the person we have in that. I just think this is an opportunity this month, particularly during the enrollment period, that we spend some more time. And I think Denise had proposed earlier that we drill down on that and get the plan done. Right. I'm just asking to put it off to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm just not sure of the rationale. I mean, our current enrollment numbers are maybe minus 3 point something %. We're anticipating, you know, more high school students in advanced studies. Actually, we're kind of flat with last year to date. This is a position we will have to fill at some point anyways.
Absolutely. I'm committed to doing that.
I'm not sure how we can operate without a VP of enrollment management.
Well, he's there now, and Len, I'll support you. I'll make the second on it. Steve, you've been very responsive to all of my questions, and you're coming to Financial Health Committee now at my request to give us updates, and I appreciate that. I'll second Len's motion, and let's just get. You mentioned earlier you're working on a plan, and something I didn't have a chance to mention at the Financial Health Committee update is Steve had given us some details at the committee 2 weeks ago about some of the problems or impediments that are affecting enrollment. They include availability or inavailability of financial aid advisors, or getting wrong information, or not timely getting in to meet with a financial aid advisor is a critical thing that blocks enrollment. The availability of a counselor / advisor, not financial aid, but a counselor advisor who's counseling a student into what classes should they be enrolling in or registering for, some things like that, correct? Or you talked about those being obstacles. They've been obstacles for a while.
Well, that's the issue.
Steve had indicated at the committee meeting, Len, that he was working with his team on that. So if in the next month, you mentioned the plan you were working on earlier about enrollment.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, I don't question the individual that we're seeking to fill this position with. I think just bearing down on, drilling down on the plan.
So for clarity, just let me follow this through. So if, for instance, if enrollment was sub-target, is the thought that we would somehow not have that?
No.
So
Dan, what I'm saying is simply not to attach any big significance to up or down over the next month or two. It's simply drilling down exactly where.
It's just not to make that position permanent.
And that'll be on the agenda for next month. And I'm just saying, this is the season to look at this And I think, as we talked earlier, Steve said he's working on a plan to bring to us. I think we could, those of us that are interested could meet over the next couple of weeks, firm up some of that action and go from there. Not talk about putting off the position. Right.
Can I ask a question? This may be to Tracy. Is there, have we implemented performance evaluations for our SES staff?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, actually we did. In fact, I have evaluations. Every SES has been evaluated. This past month, they're done. They were submitted. Done on time.
Okay.
All right. Kate.
I disagree with this line of approach. First of all, there's practically nothing more important than admissions, and we need to give our full support to the effort at hand. I think we're, getting into management. We're supposed to be a governance body, and that this is not where we belong, in the weeds like this.
Okay.
And I think, we need to, again, support those people who are working on that plan. We can look at the plan and make sure we're drilling down on that, but not at the expense of somebody's position. So I will be voting no on that.
Okay. I agree with Kate.
And just so that we're certain for the record on our actions, there's two things. One is a technical issue. If I'm interpreting your motion correctly, Trustee Lennon, it's to table the
For 1 month.
1 month. Okay, I get that. And Tim, you were seconding that tabling so that we have it there. So on this discussion, we've had discussion. The only question I'd like to ask for Human Resources and the President is, for the record, just so we all know, all SCS positions are at the will of the President.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
It can be hired in or terminated as long as the line item is fixed.
Exactly.
Is that correct? Okay.
I think that's a good point. Thank you, Chair, for making. I just want to go back to those days and those meetings at that Blue Ribbon panel, where we were adamant about how we looked at these positions and these advances, and I know this one is not a physical, right, a financial advancement, but anything. It was very clear that the board needed to be more involved in some of these positions. And so I think, and I'm not speaking for Tim, he said it plainly, I think what I will have to agree with Tim in saying is that I don't want to back from that. I definitely agree with you, Kate. We have to support the SES staff. We have to support the President and his decision and who he chooses to do things with. However, the repercussions of that sometimes falls on us as trustees. So we have to not manage it, not have any control, if you will, over who is where. However, we do have to make sure that the systems are in place, which is why I asked, okay, at least let's have a trail showing through HR that there's performance measures that's being attributed to positions, and that if there are shifts, they're based on these performance measures and absolutely needs of the college.
And this was a full search.
Yes.
That was completed
Absolutely,
to every bit of specification that the board directed, right?
There was, and the Blue Ribbon panel was prior to my time, so it would help me to understand how their recommendations would have bearing on having an interim position move into a permanent position where there's no fiscal impact whatsoever. And that I'm understanding there's no intent to eliminate that position, given how critical it is to the function.
And I don't even question the search. I'm just saying, I'm just questioning.
So I still don't understand how the blue panel recommendations have bearing on what your motion is.
It's not about the specifics of the issue. The state controller audit was devastating in saying the board provided no oversight over management. In 17 different measurements, the state controller's office said the board was not.
What specific recommendation has bearing on this motion?
This motion doesn't seem to have really any implications to the points you're making about
And that's not my intent either, by the way.
Well, I get that, but that's the argument that's being made. And it doesn't seem to have a sound logic to it. I think, if our concern is about enrollment and we have a plan that's being developed. We're reviewing these in committee, making this position interim for another month doesn't seem to me anyway to advance the purposes that you're identifying here.
Other than gives us more time to drill down on what our long-term plan is for enrollment. And again, this is not meant. I'm not even referring to any aspects of the audit. This is just simply, this is the season for enrollment. I'm happy with the way things are going. I'd just like to, before we make it the permanent commitment, which we will in a month, to have a meeting where we talk about our enrollment issues.
Student trustee, take that, please.
Thank you. And I see both valid points on both sides of the spectrum. I'd say from the student perspective, it being so critical that with the president implementing his Student Cares program, a new initiative starting this, I believe this month, coming new year, I think would be important to be able to review in the month. There's some new path that we're taking to kind of curb some of the past inconsistencies and negative feelings students have had, and I think being to revisit in a month to see if the path is what we expect it to be moving forward would be appropriate.
But we can review that without making this position.
I don't disagree with
Yeah, right. So I mean, I think they're two separate things. We will be reviewing this. Right. I mean, we're going to be reviewing the program, right? The board has asked that we have an enrollment program, a retention program that has to, and people will be held, and folks are held accountable.
So then may I ask you, Len, is your goal to kind of to push it off, to make it so that it kind of drilled down on, and that?
My goal is simply to have, spend a little more time than we can in a meeting like this, going over all aspects of enrollment, so we all are comfortable and confident moving forward. I've got no questions at all about the qualifications of the candidate. I think he's doing a good job. He's a good guy. But enrollment is critical to the success of the school, and I think as we move forward, focusing on enrollment, trying to get it as high as we can as we deal with middle states and all the other issues we've got. I'm just saying this is a good time to have a review.
And I agree with that, and I look forward to that, and I'd be willing to participate in that, but I don't think we need to hold hostage to this position for that purpose, because I think we're all on the same page. We need to be rowing in the same direction.
And I think we are on the same page, and I'm fine with the rest of the package today. But
to close out the subject before we have the amendment called, as chair.
I'm just concerned too. It just doesn't make sense to me. We're sitting here talking about the importance of student enrollment. You take a look at what has been done since a person has come in and handled this and made significant changes. Has been very creative. And for us to do from taking the person from a temporary to a regular position is well deserved. It's well deserved, and it should be done now, not later.
Okay.
It's just closing out.
Just agree on that.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one small point.
Would you please stand up before we close out the conversation?
Thank you. Just one small point. The college does have a current enrollment management plan. It also has a current retention plan. The board re-approved those plans when it re-approved Excel's a couple of months ago. What Steve is referencing as part of the enrollment plan review is simply refreshing the plan for the current period. But the board has vetted and approved those plans, both on retention and enrollment. I just wanted to make that point, not to engage in discussion about the hire, obviously, but
the goal of clarity
on planning.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we call the vote, would like to call the vote?
Sure.
Okay. Then we have close out the conversation. We have a first and a second. I will do my best of restating it that we'd like to remove item 2, section 2, and table that.
Separate table.
We will table section 2 for next month's review. The rest will stand. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? We're going to do it one more time. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all those opposed? before? Motion carries, it's amended. So therefore, we have talent management, absent section 2. That's before you with a second.
She said
Any
she
other?
needed 6.
You need 6 for the motion to carry. So the majority of
I'm going to defer to the
the.
I
secretary.
don't have my bylaws.
The bylaws are right here.
Yes.
This is something new for us once in a while, so we're going to make sure we're following it correctly. So I will defer to the secretary while we're looking that up. Any discussion on the talent management agenda other than with item 2 removed?
I'll move it.
I believe we, the amended? Yes, we have that amended. So it will be discussion and then a vote. And I can talk for a few more
You're
minutes.
gonna have to, because I can't find the second.
We, the only reason this is a question, at least in my mind, is because we've had a trustee resign, so therefore, how does that calculate? Yeah.
I think majority of the board
Those
presidents
present,
voted.
that would be my sense,
That's
but,
probably it. Yeah, I'll look through this, and if that's different, I'll let you know.
so our trustees, are you comfortable with the sense that the majority, in this case, rules?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so based on the information we have currently, it's a 5-4 vote, we have a itemized, is that correct? And that the motion carries until if we define otherwise, but through the secretary's review, we'll certainly let you know next month.
Yeah, the rest of the package is before us, right?
Yes. So, all those in favor of the adjusted package? That's still
Approving the talent
5-4.
management committee agenda after the amendments?
Yeah. That's still 5-4, that's correct, the amendment, right?
Right.
We're all.
That item's been tabled.
Yes.
Right,
So
okay,
we're-
I'll vote
So the
on
rest
it.
of the package is
Rest
before
of the
us.
package.
Of the talent management.
Yes.
Right.
So all those in favor?
This is her, the whole thing.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is that right? Do I have this right, Kevin?
I'm sorry, what was the motion to?
The amended talent management agenda.
Okay.
This is the vote to approve the talent management agenda, absent
Absent.
section 2.
Correct.
That's correct.
The amended
Oh.
talent management agenda. Okay, shall I recall?
Yes,
For
please.
purpose? All those, do we have a first of all?
I mean,
Yeah, that's what I thought. And second? Any discussion, further discussion? None being said. All those in favor, of the amended talent management agenda? Okay, got it? Yeah? John? Yes? Any opposed? 3 opposed. The talent management agenda as amended carries.
here's.
As noted. Do we have a talent management agenda report?
There is no report.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, go
Another
ahead.
item on there, the approval of personnel systems, an employee that we hired from personnel systems. So it's approving their payment for the placement fee, which is stated on there. It's on the agenda under another D, account management, assistant personnel fee. Nina, do you want to talk a little bit about our hire?
Yes, this is a workday position, administrator of the ERP, and we did search and could not find anyone, so we hired recruiting for us to help us. And the person is on board, and we are pretty happy with the staff.
Yes, sir.
Quick
Thanks,
question,
Tracy.
Nina. Tracy, how long has the person that was hired via the search firm been on board?
I believe it's about 3 months, 2 months. or so.
He started in June, I think it was June 26th, or around June.
Yes, it's 3 months.
2 months.
2
So I
months.
found it too.
The reason I was asking to my fellow trustees is
That didn't pass.
I've had a lot of discussion within the Financial Health Committee and with the Executive Vice President of Finance and Management about the ERP project. Everybody knows the ERP project is something I've been asking a lot of questions about. And Because one of the things I've noticed is that we seem to have problems with not necessarily recruitment, but retention on the new jobs for the ERP project. And problems with the IBM consultants who work for IBM staying on projects, the same with IBM as I understand it. And I just wanted to get a sense of if we're hiring a search firm, paying them a fee, 20-some%, 30% of the person?
It's 22%.
22% of the person's salary is a fee. After, I think it's 90 days. If the person leaves after 90 days, the search firm still gets the money.
It's guaranteed for 90 days.
And I just want to, that's why I was asking how long the person had been here is. I hope this person stays.
Yeah.
Because given that recruitment is difficult, we have to hire search firms to recruit IT jobs. And then people are leaving us to join the ERP project within months of being hired. I'm just concerned by that.
Sorry, just to give you a little bit background over here, we only had one position initially approved to hire from outside, unfortunately, and that, so we hired someone and that person did leave after a month because whatever this person was offered almost like 40% more salary than what we were offering, so there was no counter, so the person left. This was 2017 November, and we could not find any replacement for all this time. That put the project in danger, and we had lots of issues because you need staffing, as you know, to get things moving. So we finally we did get approval to have those 3 positions that we had asked for, and 1 position is hired through the recruiter. 2 positions we downgraded that because we just couldn't find even through the recruiter any person with the skill set that we wanted. So we downgraded those 2 positions to lower job rate and hired really entry-level people. 2 positions that did not go through recruiter, and we are hoping we'll just groom them. We are trying to be as strategic and as wise with the spending as we can. So out of 3 positions, we just used 1 for recruiter, and other ones we hired ourselves by downgrading the job rate and the entry level. So that's like a background over here, that we are not just going out and asking for help. There was lots of thought that went into it. If some people still leave, that's how it is. And there's nothing, that just means we need to have a better retention plan for the college. We need to really focus on retaining our people. If we don't do that, we will end up losing the talent. And that is a risk now in IT department as we speak. And we are bringing in lots of new technologies, and we are moving the college forward. And that also means that we are developing the skill set of the team. That's a lot of work, and that they can leave if we don't think about retention. So I think what you're saying is those are important points, but it doesn't end at hiring. It also ends at retaining the current pool that we already have. So it's an ongoing management problem that we need to focus on.
Well said.
So we have a motion for this particular item?
Yes. For hiring?
We have a board approval for systems personnel needs,
Right.
which is on page 386. And after the second, we can have discussion on the motion. So would you like to make the motion?
Make a motion to bring on the System Personnel Incorporated for the work that we need for Workday.
Okay. We have a second. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Any others being said? None? All those in favor? Any opposed? None being shown? Unanimously carries. Thank you. Anything else in the report, talent management today? Okay.
We're good.
You're all set? Thank you.
Yes.
We'll go to the top of the order. But before we go to the top of the order for marketing report, just like they do in sports, upon further review, we have additional information for you today. the secretary has read the bylaws and has information to report to the trustees.
Yes, Mr.
Please.
President, according to page 4 of our bylaws, section 3C, the presence of 6 trustees at any regular meeting or special meeting of the board shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. The affirmative vote of 6 voting members of the board shall decide any issue. So we did not have an affirmative vote of 6 votes on the issue of tabling the interim vice president, so that motion failed.
All right.
So then the town management as a whole was passed.
So my apologies of taking down the wrong lane on that particular question, but I will be happy and follow the procedural route. If we would like to entertain another motion that is amended, we can certainly follow that process. But we have approved, just so we're aware, we have approved the amended, even though the amendment wasn't approved. So we have a talent management issue, the agenda, which we approved.
Right.
However, the amendment was not approved technically. So however you would like to proceed, I am willing to follow.
I think another motion would be in order to approve the entire report. But I would like to reiterate the fact that since we do need to get together for the next meeting, so we can have a solid session about enrollment policy going forward. Okay, so I'll move the reconstructed
Original agenda.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second on the original agenda. The agenda as was presented to you in your packet. How's that?
Right.
Is that clear?
I'll move it. Yeah.
Move in a second. Discussion on the motion. That being said, all those in favor? All those opposed? 1, 2, 3.
So that means that didn't pass.
That did not pass. So the talent management agenda is not passed.
There were 6 votes. 6. How many?
6
Six.
to 3 is right.
I abstain.
Oh,
Oh, you abstain.
Yep.
So then we don't have an assistant to the board, and the other positions there cannot be acted on. This seems to me to be out of line from where we really need to go.
Well, we've acted as a board, unless there's another motion coming from the floor, which I'll give 30 seconds to reflect on. We'll move on.
And then would you just like recount, because I'm not sure exactly who was an abstained.
Elmore was the abstained, me, Wilson, and TK were the noes.
Unless, sorry, John, but just for the record, because I just got in trouble for this at another board, we're not empowered to abstain unless it's a conflict of interest perceived by you.
Give us some thought. I'm not ready to vote.
Would it be reasonable to move on to another committee report and then come back around to it? Is everyone okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Sorry to make this convoluted, but we need to get to resolve one way or the other. We'll take the, as I said, at the top of the leader role here, marketing, Len, Trustee Lenahan, sir.
Right. We certainly plan on, taking over chair of that committee. I'm going to be meeting with all of you. We need to get connected this week, but also going to touch base with Kate just to look at where we've been and where we're going, and looking forward to developing a new committee. And, but certainly don't have a report for today, but we'll the next meeting.
And we have some minutes, I believe, minutes from April. Yes. That we joined forward into the record. Sure. So we have those. All right. Thank you. Technology. The only report I have, other than calling and meeting for an update, is I don't know if all of you have been reading the virtual daily updates on the Workday progress that have been issued. They're phenomenal. So I encourage you, if you feel like you're not connected, it's all out there. It's being pushed out. It goes through your mailboxes, and the updates are all there. The countdown, what's happening, how we're doing, what we're doing, and it's to me, having gone through this numerous times, and actually Trustee Callan and I have commiserated over the years of onboarding these systems. It appears that, at least from what I'm reading, it's going quite well. So, do you have anything to add to that?
I will be happy to take questions, but great news is that we are rolling out Workday on Tuesday. So it will be available to the campus for HR, payroll, finance. This is phase 1. Students, it's next. So it was tremendous amount of work. And as you had heard, past President Jack Quinn talk about all the business processes and all that. So there was lots of work to really pull it all together and automate the business processes. We do have really good governance. We have a Workday Strategic Steering Committee that meets monthly, and you all are invited. Tim, I think I invited you once. You are welcome to come and attend those monthly meetings. That's where most of the decisions are made, and we provide extensive update. We do have lots of information online. There's a website for the campus community, pretty transparent on what is going on. For the past month and a half, we have been doing extensive training for the community. Everyone has to know, because we are going to switch the flip on Monday at midnight. So there will be no more colleague, it will be all Workday. So when people come back after the holidays, this new world, so we have to train. So there's lots of training that's going on. And it was, the teams have done a fabulous job. We don't have professional trainers, we just pull it off with the resources that we have internally, and we have lots of communication going on. There was some convocation day yesterday. We had 140 people attended at the convocation day. So we are hoping, and our support systems we have in place. Help desk is ready to go. Functional areas, Tracy and her team has done a fabulous job, and he has been involved, and it has been really a team effort, and really happy we are pulling off the base. So this is a basic system. We are pulling it off. It will take us more than 6 months to stabilize that. And we have done lots of testing, but since once it goes public, then that's the real test, I see. So we have done it on time, on budget. So I think those are the two things that we are really proud of, and it is not just me, it's the whole team effort. This was truly a team effort. We had everyone working together, and we are planning as far as any questions on where we are before I say where we are going. Yeah.
2 questions. I mean, how many parallels were done prior to go live next week?
How many parallel testing?
Yeah.
We called it end-to-end first, and then the parallel. So it is, we don't say how many, it's the whole process.
How many times have you run the system through the payroll module, for instance, to make sure, if there's one thing that's going to cause chaos if nobody here gets paid?
Yeah, we have done several times.
Because in my experience on 2 different ERP projects, payroll was the one module. In the county, when we deployed SAP, it didn't go right. The project was delayed 6 months before go live. Parallel's been done, and it just, when it went live, it collapsed. And the project had to stop for 6 months, or was suspended. More testing, more work was done for 6 months before a new go live date. And then in my job last year, where I was working on a payroll and timekeeping system, they didn't do parallels before go live, and the system, I spent all last year working on fixing it at the town of Tonawanda. So I'm just getting a sense of how many parallels have been done to test out, will everything post?
Absolutely.
Will everything go through to whoever a bank is for direct deposit?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have from our end, we have made it rock solid from our side. But again, we have, once it's really, once we do the real test, we have done in the simulation environment with the real data. And we have tested it, parallel testing, and have gone through all the, that's where it took actually more time. We were for HCM, HR payroll, we were planning to go live in July. That was our initial target date, and financials in September, so that we have less pressure, because it is very hard to go live with 2 big things at the same time. So the reason we had to push it down was because of testing to make sure that our data is not credible data. So we have found so many issues with our processing, with our business process, with the system, and integrity of the data. And the team has done a fabulous job of testing it. So we are hoping.
Thank you.
That it will be.
We're gonna hold off the forward-looking discussion for our next meeting, but those who've been on this journey since day one, this is a very large inflection appreciation point in time. And President Quaid, do you have anything to add? But there's been so many people involved in this, and thanks for the leadership.
I just want to recognize Mina and the team for the extraordinary effort and work to have this on time and on budget. You know, tomorrow's the last day. Paper time cards will be submitted, or not. This will be the last opportunity for employees not to submit their paper time cards. So I told everyone that. They should take advantage of this opportunity not to submit their time cards because it's the last chance they'll have to do it. But we're looking forward to joining the 21st century in terms of employees being able to personally go online and adjust their vacations and direct deposits and deductions and all that. So, but kudos to Mina and her team.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. It's always the issue for the police for the first couple of runs.
See, boy, we have to let them know.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Next item is curriculum.
So we have yet to meet, but we, at the newly named Diversity and Student Success Committee, we had a conversation about splitting out curriculum from that committee where it had previously been a topic of discussion. And we thought, and the SES staff that was around the table, that it probably didn't make a lot of sense to pull curriculum out of the committee because it was integral to the subjects that we talk about here, from enrollment to diversity, and that wasn't easy to sort of remove that item from the broader discussion. So I had emailed you, Dennis, with that thought and suggestion that we reconsider consider folding that committee back into the standing committee. And I assume that we'll have a discussion about that at some point.
Yes, we certainly can.
All right.
And I'd like to learn more about it. But certainly, as chair of the curriculum committee in question and involved in student success, I would like to work through that and make sure that we get it set up correctly.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to just participate in that because I think we've got some good ideas that we would want to share.
Certainly. Certainly.
Just on that, Dennis, do you have anything to add on that?
I think curriculum is the backbone of this college. The academic programs that we offer lead us to enrollment numbers, they lead us to financial numbers. I think it's crucial that the board hear about programs that we're trying to move forward, and that just will be right.
Thank you. Next is back around to talent. Are we prepared to, or want to be prepared to take a look at?
Do it after executive session.
Do it after executive session? I prefer to do it before executive session. What is the sense of the trustees? We have a vote that stands. We have a question on how the vote was, the numbers in the vote, the way it came down. I'm sorry to bring this up again, but it is a question. And unless John feels that he has a conflict of interest in the vote, we're going to have to take another look at it.
I think it makes sense to have the vote after executive session.
I do too. I totally agree.
I think that's right.
And are we okay with going on beyond the noon hour today?
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
guess so.
I just want to make sure
It's
that
a
we're all
big
here
house.
for a vote. My concern is not that we don't have a discussion. My concern is that we have enough votes at the end
Is
after
everybody
executive
able
session.
to stay?
Will I be part of
You
the
can-
executive session for this?
Yes.
Part of the discussion?
Yes, sir. You're invited.
PKS.
Oh, that's right. You need informed. Thank you. It was very thoughtful. You let me know the other day that you had to leave early. So, how would you like to proceed? We could move to go into executive session twice today. I apologize for doing that, but at what time would you need to leave, sir?
11:30.
11:30. So, would anyone be opposed to having two executive sessions to accommodate the need?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then right after executive session, we'll come out and have nominee committee report, and then we'll move to the next. Okay? All right. So do we have a motion to go into executive session? So first, I want to make sure Gail's getting it. Okay. Second. Okay. Second. Any question on the motion going into executive? The purpose of going into executive session?
Who are we gonna hit first? What are we gonna discuss first? The president's.
One item. The specific, it'd be a specific issue as it relates to a job position and the contents of the confidentiality of the job position. Right?
There you go.
That's why we all help each other. Anything else?
I'd like to request that both Penny and Tracy be able to attend the executive session for this matter, only because there are contractual obligations with the town management agenda to faculty and administrators.
Certainly. We'll invite them in at least initially, and then we may dismiss as time goes on. All those in favor of going to executive session? Would anyone like to take a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 2 minutes it is. session. The rest of the world may not be with us, but we're ready to go. Good afternoon. Madam Secretary, would you please read for the record?
The board met in an executive session to discuss an item specific to the talent management agenda as relates to transitioning an interim position to permanent position. No official action was taken.
As a point of notice, the vote that we had taken on the modified talent agenda was ruled invalid for purposes. So we are going to refresh ourselves. I'm going to call upon the talent management chair to present the agenda for a vote.
We're going to vote for the talent management agenda.
Making a motion?
Making a motion.
Motion, okay. A second? Second, thank you. Discussion on the matter.
I move to separate the position of Executive Vice President for enrollment for 1 month period to discuss enrollment issues in the interim.
It's a modification. Do you have a second for the proposed amendment?
Second.
You have a second? Trustee Callen? Discussion on the matter. None being said, all those in favor of the modification? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those opposed? 6-3. The modification carries. Amended. Wonderful. Next step is we have a modified talent management agenda before us. All those in, excuse me, we need a motion.
So move.
First and a second. Thank you. Thank you for your correction. Any comment? None being said, all those in favor? Any opposed? One opposed. The motion carries as modified. Being done. We have a, we're going to move on to the next section, a little bit out of order, with a student trustee report. Thank you.
Okay. We've had quite the summer. With the new full SGA roster, we're able to have a successful learning retreat at Beaver Hollow. City Campus went above and beyond this past summer session, offering 2 different events for those students who also paid an activity fee for the summer session. They had Splash with the Cats and Dance with the Cats, and over 110 students were able to partake in these events. We have revamped our social media presence and hope to reach many more students than previous years, and it's very exciting. We also, with the help of our activity coordinators, spent about $4,000 to help stock the pantries and refrigerators of the Canisius College and Collegiate Village football team. There was some concern there, so I was really excited, and they're very grateful. So with all the talks of student engagement and retention, taking roles and responsibilities, I unknowingly became my own case study in retention. As many have stated to me, students become more engaged when they feel a sense of belonging to their school community, and that is achieved in many different ways, one of which is joining an organization or club, leading SGA and board trustees. From the start, I was very impressed with the kindness and welcoming nature everyone has had with me, but I do have some concerns. I very quickly learned that there were 2 major mentalities that exist within the SUNY area ecosystem. And as a disclaimer, this is not all-encompassing, but I have found when dealing with many faculty and staff, a lot either feel a fear of speaking up in advocacy of students, and also there's a lack of urgency sometimes for those who actually have the power to make change. I've often found myself on informational scavenger hunts, only to hit email or voicemail walls. I noticed initially, individuals are always on board to help you and smile, but once a situation reaches the proverbial level 2 stage, it strangely becomes more difficult to answer or get in contact with those. There was a situation that I was very upset about. I needed funds to redo our student center here. I wanted to purchase some furniture to get a new space. And because individuals were misled or didn't understand my point, I was not gotten back to in time because they thought I would approach some of the different issue that they thought was already handled. And unfortunately, some of those funds are going to end up back in the restricted budget, and that pushes us back. We only get about 25% of that moving forward. And it's huge because we have student feedback, they need a place to go. That's not the library, that's not the cafeteria, where they can unwind and not sit in their cars between class to class. Excuse me. I come from a great household, and there's a theory we have. We always say, clean your house before you invite guests over. And as impressed I am with Dr. Hakoy's tour on getting to college, you know, a new name and a new brand, our house is not clean. And I have not seen enough evidence of preventative measures to clean our house, frankly. And I would hate for students to get this new image only to be let in and be very disappointed. And I want to acknowledge all the hard work that people have done moving forward, but I want to stress a sense of urgency and a stress of commitment moving forward. People love to talk about, like I said earlier, theory and ideas, and we have a lot of doctors in the room and a lot of well-educated people, but it's the day-to-day practice that makes the difference. And no matter how many committee meetings we have, and no matter how many private discussions we have, it's up to the day-to-day people to really be represented and to be held to a standard. And we can't let students fall through the cracks any longer. Yeah, a few more points, I'm done. I did have there was concern regarding the students who moved into Collegiate Village or the Canisius College campus. Unfortunately, they were not given a list of things they would need. And where it kind of falls into play is they're in a premium living situation where they're not considered freshmen by Canisius College. Canisius College are considered upperclassmen because where they live, so they don't get the freshman packet. And we did not provide that for them. So we had students approaching our activity coordinators while they were passing out the food that we gave them. Hey, you know, does my son need getting? You know, does my son? And they didn't, you know. So we had to go get them some supplies. So we dropped the ball on that one because students came out of town to live here and to go to our school. To be completely transparent, I was going to resign today. I've been, as nice as everyone is, there's been huge, like a sinking ship mentality that I've had behind the scenes. And unfortunately, smiles and handshakes are not enough. And I haven't seen a lot of ushering in as far as I'm concerned. And that's from the school, but sometimes even from the board. Everyone's been so kind that I don't feel as though I was properly onboarded. I still understand completely what we do here, 100%. And that's not to call anyone out. I know.
Well, I said that.
Yes, I was going to give you a praise for that. That when I brought to your attention a couple weeks ago, you know, you definitely got right on money. But unfortunately, I have to ask a question. But what about people that don't know what questions to ask? You know, there's a system in place, and someone new comes in. There should be some type of, you know, roller coaster you can get on right to right. So yeah, I decided to stay on, thanks to Dr. Wilson informing me that it's important. I can't drop the ball, right? So the ball's already been dropped, and I can't do it as well. But I do it with caution, and the sense of urgency cannot be lost. I've been very, very impressed with ideas and very unimpressed with the actual day-to-day implementation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. And thank you for staying. Yeah. And I see that your e-board is with you, and so I commend you guys for supporting us.
Thank you.
Dennis, if I might ask TK a question? When you made the comment, were you talking about janitorial, like physical cleanliness of the spaces within the college?
No, I didn't make a comment about janitorial.
So when you made the comment about facilities earlier, what were you referring to?
It wasn't just facilities.
In reference to having space for our students. Oh, yes. So the idea that your house must be clean before you invite guests over for a dinner party or something like that. So here we are doing a big campaign to get students to want to come to the area again. But once they get here, it's no bueno.
There's a larger issue on advisors, financial aid,
Absolutely,
Ease of enrollment.
and that's the first contact.
Okay.
That's the first contact.
Can I ask if, you know, I mean, we talked earlier about this new plan for recruitment, customer service, interpersonal relationships. Is the staff required to attend trainings for this?
Yeah.
And then how do we measure that they're implementing it, that they're putting what they learn into action? How do we get that?
So what we're implementing is the second year initiative in the area of CARES, which I unveiled at the convocation yesterday. C stands for compassion for students and their experience or sometimes pain. The A stands for accountability. And so I actually read a letter from a parent whose daughter was in the service, and her issues was financial aid and admissions. So in response to such letters from parents and complaints from students, we will have point of purchase surveys that students will be able to provide feedback immediately, as if you were, buying a drink at Starbucks and the service or the bathroom or whatever. There will also be a college-wide survey for students regarding all aspects of the college experience. And thirdly, surveys for all sections of every course, student surveys within the curriculum. So,
and if those surveys come back showing that there's an issue, is that included in somebody's performance review?
yes, it has to be.
I just want to make sure.
Okay. Any other questions? No, our student trustee's gone, but I think we all clearly to what was being stated. Next item, we'll move to the report of the president and go forward.
In terms of academic affairs, as Rick highlighted, our police academy welcomed almost 70 recruits this year, which is one of our biggest classes ever. And that includes 28 from Buffalo Police Department. We've been working closely with Buffalo Police to support and train a diverse cohort of graduates reflecting the diversity of the city. I've been on conversations up until yesterday about Northland Workforce Development Center, which is on schedule to open, with student orientation currently scheduled for next Friday. So this is very exciting for us to provide certificates in advanced manufacturing in a historically neglected area of the city. And we're hoping that the governor will be able to join us for the ribbon cutting. Our culinary medicine program is starting this fall at North Campus. Again, we're one of very few community colleges offering such an innovative program. We're partnering with Roswell Park. And we'll be offering clinical courses to both Duville and UB students right here on our campus. 15 students have been accepted into the Brewing Science Certificate program, and this is one of the programs I'm personally overseeing. We're utilizing grant funding through the SUNY Erie One-Stop Career Center, and the grant covers 100% of the cost of students' tuition and books. More than 600 students receive services through Pathways this summer, with 30 RISE workshops and 14 pre-collegiate studies classes offered. And as you know, in terms of our enrollment plan, we are doubling down on distance learning. Given that there's 27 academic higher ed institutions in Western New York, there's a lot of competition. The only school last year that saw an increase in enrollment was Brighton and Stratton, and that was because of their online offerings. Some say it's a crowded market, but we offer this very same programs online for a third of the cost that Brighton and Stratton offers it. So I think we can be very competitive. And thanks to our distance learning committee, we are now authorized to offer our courses in 48 states. So going beyond county borders for students. And I'm excited to report that distance learning has seen increases already this summer. So our first session in the summer, enrollment was up 10%. Second session, our enrollment for distance learning was up 21%. And in fall 2018, there's been an increase 6%. In terms of seats filled, as well as 12% increase in sections offered. So, you know, with regards to enrollment, I think that this initiative is having a very positive impact. Human Resources and ITS have been offering employee trainings for Workday, 2 yesterday at Convocation. Altogether, they've offered 19 trainings through WebEx and person-to-person. There will be tables at every campus so that we know this is a culture shift in terms of using paper and then having people going online themselves. So we understand that that will take some time and training. And thanks to Tracy and Mina for all their work in having this be as smooth and seamless as we've seen it. See, I'm going to fast forward through my cherry picks on these, given how late this is going. You know, I can give a quick summary of Mill States. I think Fabio can provide details. With regards to progress in terms of the 2 standards in which we are currently under warning, I'm happy to inform you that all college units have submitted unit goals reports. All academic programs and ILOs, institutional learning outcomes, have been fully assessed. Nuventive is up and running and is a platform for our continuous improvement. So that will be the data center so that Middle States and others can see what progress we're making. We are now currently in the stage of reviewing the monitoring report, which will be submitted this weekend. The Middle States team will be visiting us. You should probably get this on your calendars. October 2nd to 4th. The Middle States team will consist of 3 colleagues from similar institutions. Deb Meckel from SUNY, as well as Sean McKittrick from Middle States. In terms of institutional advancement, as a way of engaging our alums, an alumni appreciation tailgate party will be taking place on September the 8th at our South Campus West Surf Stadium, just prior to the Cats' home opener against Hudson Valley Community College. And so alumni and friends will enjoy free admission to the game, food and fun. And I look forward to doing this ceremonial coin flip. With regards to someone's question about the golf tournament, so far the numbers look like we've raised $40,000 from that tournament this year. The foundation annual report will be released next month as part of the biannual alumni magazine, SUNY Area Connects, which is our way to connect with alums. And recently we found out that we have received a signed contract from a yet to be named prominent bank for $200,000 to name our student center at the STEM building. The formal announcement will come in September, and the first check is to arrive in our coffers in October. As some of you already know, we had one of the first digital marketing certificates in partnership with Facebook, and then also thanks to Mike Bukevich, we are now in initial discussions with WazU. Did I mention this before? So there's a small up-and-coming company by the name of Apple, and they've reached the $1 trillion market value mark. And the 2 founders, Steve Wozniak, Steve Gates, Steve Jobs. Steve Wozniak started a university for digital skills, including cybersecurity, mobile development, drone manufacturing, etc., etc. How this works is probably best illustrated in an example. So there are a few thousand acres of sugarcane in Florida, and typically there's a human being that walks through the crops to ensure that there's no infestation, disease, etc., etc. And they need to catch early or else it will ruin the entire crop. So what they would like to see, if there was sufficient talent, was would be people that could fly drones over the fields with the GPS on the drone and high definition cameras that can go up and down the stalk. But they don't have the talent, right? If they could do it this way with drones, it actually is at 1/10 the cost of a human being inspecting and then, identifying where that stock is, et cetera, et cetera. So there's talent required for industry. We would provide that instruction in collaboration with WASU, and then students would obviously get the job. So it's a win-win-win. So we have another meeting with WASU second week of September. All right, I'm just going to skip through the most important thing I've done in the past 2 months was I was a celebrity judge at the Erie County Fair. And I took my job seriously because I had to try out the new fair foods, right? And so I assure you, the college was well represented by me. My scores were very reliable. Anyways, a 9/11 memorial ceremony is being scheduled for Tuesday, September 11th at 12:30 at the Fallen Heroes Memorial Park. So all trustees, faculty, staff, and guests are welcome to attend.
What time is that?
12:30.
12:30.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, September 11th, Fallen Heroes Memorial Park. I'll just, because of time constraints, the second year initiative from my administration is again SUNY Erie Cares, where CARE stands for compassion, accountability, as mentioned, relevant culturally. So we had Clay Osborne yesterday do 3 presentations at our convocation regarding being more inclusive as a community. E stands for excellence, and implementing a cycle of continuous improvement, which is one of the concerns that our Mill States accrediting body has had with regards to our functioning. And then the S in SUNY Erie Care stands for Students First, which is the principle by which we need to make decisions. That's all from the President's office.
Thank you.
Nice job.
President McCoy?
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Are we doing an ECC gala, Mike or Dan?
We are, yeah. Mike,
So I think the board knows that the foundation board itself has been undergoing significant change, additions, and et cetera. And there's a new events committee that's been created. There has been debate at the board level with the foundation about the direction. Should we be an event-driven foundation, or should we think bigger? And I think we focused on events in the past. There's a debate occurring between the board members at the foundation level about those types of things. So long answer to a short question is that we have not set a date because the board hasn't agreed yet on the direction. And so we were looking at a fall date for a gala, but it was tabled at the last board meeting. And many of you know Tom Albrecht, UB Center Project Hill. Sorry, thank you. He is the chair of the events committee, and one of the things we are doing is an analysis on the value of events in terms of ROI. Through Dan's leadership, we're focusing on some of those bigger things that the college really hasn't done in the past, which is partnerships, naming rights, those kinds of things. And that's the level of the people that are appointing to that board now or volunteering for that board now are hopefully going to give us access to more of those opportunities. So instead of being event-driven, which is always valuable because you can guarantee certain amounts of revenue, we're trying to think a little bit bigger in terms of what that board does, while maintaining some of the things that have worked, like the golf tournament, like an alumni event, those kind of things. And Jonathan is building out an alumni program, which I understand we've had in the past, but we haven't had a real strong alumni program in the past. An example of which is the football tailgate, which we haven't done in the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the president based on his report? None being said, thank you, Dr. McCoy. We'll move along to the College Senate's report. Welcome.
Hello, I was going to give you a good morning, but I think I just missed the time. I'm not under the wire. But so good afternoon. We had a very busy
Oh.
summer, working with all the different entities at the college. We worked very closely with the Middle States group. Bobby and his team and the Middle States team sent drafts out at various points in the summer, and I was included in on the drafts, which I sent out to the Senate membership, soliciting responses from faculty and staff across the college, and we've been able to be very active in the writing of the draft. Actually got another draft this morning and sent it out to our team as well with the deadline of ASAP with any comments. So we're hoping to get any comments and feedback back to Providence team by tomorrow morning. We're also proud to say that we've been a part of many search committees right now. Obviously, we have several ongoing. The Senate has been represented in all the SES searches, including searches that are still currently going on right now. And the Senate also has representation on the steering committee with JMZ for the master plan for the academics and facilities. We've also been able to make recommendations as far as additional people that we feel is beneficial. So we are adding people from our curriculum committees and things like that, so that it can be a robust group that can work well with JMC as they go about their recommendations for us college-wide. We had, let's see, yesterday was convocation, and we had a lot to say with the planning of that. It was focused really in two main areas, professional development for online learning. So we had sessions on how to use WebEx as a tool for teaching, but also with our online new tutoring program, which is BrainFuse. But the majority of the workshops yesterday were student-focused, and had that student first focus. We had our MOMS program with Beth Holleran and Dr. Clark. We had student code of conduct, which was done with our Senate Vice Chair, our academic deans, our deans of students, Tracy Gies, and the safety and security. It was a great session. Learned a lot about all the different things that are going on in the college. We had a session on students with the autism spectrum diagnosis, but not only how it is for children, but how it may present itself as students are coming to us as adult learners, and different strategies with how to deal with this new population of students. And then, as Dr. Ford mentioned, we had several sessions on diversity and student engagement. Looking ahead for the coming year, we have full Senate membership, which has been a focus of ours. We have all constituent groups fully participating, fully represented across the college. So that's huge and great for lots of feedback and just really embracing that team spirit of moving the college forward in a positive direction. We have our Academic Integrity Task Force, which has been working all summer in conjunction with various initiatives where we have the syllabus template that is now being in use for the fall semester, and an academic integrity statement, but now we're moving our focus to academic freedom, academic dismissal policies, and the definition of intellectual property. And so we'll be reviewing all that, and I'm sure someone will come across your table with the policy committee and things like that. We also are pushing hard on our academic roadmaps, which is following the SUNY Guided Pathways model. And the team has laid out a plan, and it's a more prescriptive model for advisement, which is important for our students to help them navigate college while making a few possible missteps along the way. The academic roadmaps team is working with specific departments and programs right now, and they will give a report out for us in October with how we're working along with that goal. And last but not least, I have been asked by the SUNY Chancellor's office to represent SUNY Erie at the inauguration at FIT.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I had to call them on for a favor actually, because it's academic regalia, and I will be part of the procession for the ceremony, and I'll have a SUNY Erie flag.
Well deserved.
Yeah, it's
Very
pretty
cool.
exciting. I'm
Yes,
looking
it is.
forward to it. So that's in a couple of weeks coming up. So the next College Senate meeting is on September 11th, so it'll be actually right after the ceremony up at North Campus. And I'm looking forward to a really productive year. We have a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum, and look forward to keeping that going.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Thanks.
questions
Appreciate
or
it.
comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. We're going to run through a couple of these. First of all, I'm going to sidestep our entities report for today and put that into our next meeting. But as Susan has mentioned now numerous times, this is an opportunity to go and look at the revamped second, we'll call it mezzanine or the second floor? Second floor. If you would please go to the second floor after we adjourn. Take a quick walk up there, and you'll see some improvements.
Nice.
Proud improvements, I think you'll see. Any old business we'd like to conduct? Any new business that we'd like to conduct? We can go through the nominating committee in executive session or in public session, your choice. I'm just trying to keep us, we're already after 12 and I'm.
This isn't just the chair.
No, it's not mine. It's his decision.
Whatever you guys are.
It's a team's.
We can take it both ways. So
And we can just, nobody has to come back.
let no one has to come back. Yeah.
So I think
We can do it in executive
So
session.
there's no action.
Right.
It's not an action item. What-
Executive session.
Okay? All right?
We're gonna do it
An executive session?
more. Okay.
Any other new business before the board? None being said, we are going into executive session.
So moved.
So we will come out and just close out the day with a
Discuss
report.
the president's.
Yeah, so we're going into executive session for the numerous purposes. One is litigation issues, and number two is the first annual review of the president of the community college. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved and second. Gail? Thank you. We've got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I know this is wearing, but we'll get through this.
We're gonna talk about the board of.
Going to executive session.
I'm sorry.
Board of self-assessment too.